All right, welcome everybody. We are going to have a great conversation today for everything buyer related when it comes to lead inquiries, best questions. Now Zillow kind of controls the conversation at the start. You're allowed to say certain things. You're not allowed to say certain things. So, I got my good friend Wally Bressler here, who is an expert in all phone sales, scripting, dialogues, and everything. Personally helped me build my team to over 100 sales a year and several other agents. Wally, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your expertise.
Yes. Thanks, Matt. Matt and I are good friends. We've known each other for over a decade. So I consider him a friend first. And so I've been in the real estate industry for 25 years. I've been coaching for 22 of those years. And we're gonna be talking about buyers today. I sold 72 houses in my first 14 months in the business, and 70 of them were buyer deals. So, and then I had the good fortune to help build one of the biggest Coldwell Banker offices in New Hampshire. And so it was pretty amazing. And, I published my first book last year. I've got another book that I'm co-authoring coming out in June and July called Six Figure Agent, How to Make Your First Six Figures in Real Estate. So lots of folks that we know that are also in that book, which is cool. And, I've been on national television. I was interviewed on a TV show called Times Square Today last November, and was able to talk about how I help people do well on the phone and overcome, the blocks and whatnot, and the negative triggers, trigger sales system, to really do what they need to be successful in life and business. So I've done about 40,000 training and coaching calls. So that's just my way of nicely saying I'm old. And, right. And, I love what I do here, and I enjoy these sessions we do with each other, and hopefully you folks get tons of value out of all these videos we create.
Yes, and in the video, in the comments somewhere, we'll set up links to the scripts and to us, our calendars, if you guys ever want to chat privately. So,
yep.
Awesome. So, let's get into it. Buyer leads are the easiest thing to come by, depending on when an agent gets into the business. Typically, most agents start as a buyer's agent, because that's just a natural evolve. Those leads seem to be in abundance versus seller leads. So in general, I guess let's go right into your preferred script. What are you using right now in today's market? And how should agents be speaking to buyers? It's 2023. So let's see, what you've kind of modified over the years.
Sure. Before we hop into that, I want to make a case for doing as much buyer business as you can until you don't have to do buyer business. I think, the thing is I'm sure like for you, if you never had to show another buyer a house, it would still be too soon. Right. There's a point where you get sick of carting people around or having them follow you. And I get that. But, the market we're in today, buyer business is still good business. It's always good business, but I think you should, especially if you're a solopreneur or if you're just branching out, do buyer business. I'm saying get listings, but buyers can convert like that. You can meet somebody today and they can put an offer in tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you take a listing, it may not necessarily sell the next day, especially in this market. So always don't keep yourself from doing buyer business because you think you want to do all listings. Do some buyer. I mean, that's easier money. It seems like it's not, but it's more time. But buyers are easier to convert. They're easier to work with in most cases. And so do some buyer business to generate that income to put back into your business to get more listings and whatnot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I do, we brought in some newer agents recently into my company and some of the teams locally, and they asked me, what do I do? I want to be a listing agent. And I'm like, but if listings were that easy, we wouldn't be at 50% inventory, than we had 5 years ago. So they're not easy to come by. And yes, while a buyer can be a little frustrating in a market where, hey, we got to put an offer on every other house we go into, great. But if you have 10 buyers in my opinion of a pipeline, you should have 10 active buyers that are saying that they'll buy a home in the next 90 days if the right one came up. And if you have that sitting there waiting, somebody's going to buy a house almost every week or two. And, there's pitfalls and stuff, but there's also pitfalls on the listing side when somebody tells you they're going to move and you have a list of people over the next 6 months that are going to list, and then that shrinks. So, and buyers are where you learn the most about the business, right? I tell everybody you're not going to really understand all of the ins and outs until you hit about 50 transactions,
Mhm.
because then you've been put through enough mud and had people walk away and deals with inspections and mortgage issues and all that stuff. So and I guess let's talk about the cycle, right, before we get
Yep.
into the script. So in my opinion, people have to look at a funnel, right? So a sales funnel
Yep.
is, where you start for any business, but let's call it real estate buyer leads. The top of the funnel, the biggest part, that is where we generate Facebook leads and things like that, right? Then they incubate in some sort of a CRM. You connect with them, get them looking at listings. You watch them on your website, and then they eventually get warmer and warmer till they get to the bottom of the funnel. And in
Right.
that bottom of the funnel are the people that raise their hand. They want to see a house. They want more information to where you get them qualified, get them out and shopping. So the goal of your sales business should be get people into the funnel, get them to the bottom of the funnel as soon as possible. What Zillow has done they are bottom of the funnel leads up front. Okay.
Mhm.
They're shopping on their website, and then Zillow sends them out to realtors when they raise their hand and say, I want to see a house. So I mean, every one of them are going to buy a house? No, but it means they're raising their hand, which means they're a bottom of funnel lead, which means they're going to be a lot more expensive, you know? So, in this market, you have to kind of start dumping leads into the top of the funnel, start incubating them, and then, we all lose conversations, right? And that's why we're here today. And we're going to share some of the best tips that we have come up with over the years, and the best, conversations, pointers. When do you ask them about their mortgage? What's your opinion of Zillow, and do you know their new rules are like you have to go out and show a house, you can't even talk mortgage on the phone?
It's been like that before. It's been that for like for all. If you had Zillow Flex, that was
Yeah.
a requirement. Like you got to show at least one home, and if they listen to your call and you didn't, they're like, okay, well, we're taking our ball and we're going home.
Yeah.
So they've had that rule in place for a while actually. So
Yeah, so I know some agents getting around it by, finishing the call and then going back and say, "Oh, wait, what about your mortgage? Were you paying cash or did you need a loan?" So there are ways around that, and we'll get into that a little bit. But in general, if you're getting leads from a third party, there could be requirements where you don't discuss mortgage and you have to bring somebody out to a home unless the homeowner says, "Don't come into my home without a pre-qual."
yeah,
Um, so so
that,
yeah.
I think it's a terrible idea. By the way,
I do too. They just want, in my opinion, they've come to the point where they are so big, they want door openers.
yeah,
And
they're like the MLS. You know what I'm saying? They they use
that,
our they use our data against us. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of funny.
yeah,
So just to add on what you were talking about, if you're not using, and by the way, that's only for Zillow Flex, by the way, correct? That's not for just regular Zillow Lead, right?
they kind of, they're going to listen to your calls, bottom line. So they're
well,
going to make sure if you're not doing good, they do it. I pay a couple $100 a month to keep my profile active. Um,
yeah. Mhm.
and, I know they listen to my calls, and I know every, 6 months when they call me to re-up or whatever, they just say, hey, your conversion ratio is this, blah, blah, blah. And, so,
Yeah.
and I've heard recently, very recently, they're now going backwards on Flex.
Yeah, they are because they weren't making enough money because basically they weren't charging anything up front and then people still weren't converting,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't making sense financially for them, especially since they spent hundreds of millions of dollars buying properties that they couldn't sell. So, they kind of shot their own foot, shot
Yep.
their foot. So just to add on what you're talking about, I think it's super important that, and let's just say, let's take Zillow, maybe Op City and Home Light just sellers or buyers? Home Light does sell.
Home Light's both.
Okay, so base companies where you're paying on the back end, like even
Redfin.
Rocket Mortgage, right? So Rocket Mortgage, who else? House
Red
Jet,
Redfin.
Hello, Redfin, Home Light, all those companies that pay on the back end. It's important to remember that he who would be the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So with those type of leads, you have to play ball with them. But any other buyer lead you get, this is really what we're talking about today. And ideally you should do with those other leads too, to the extent you can. But for what we're talking about today, any other buyer lead you get, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you follow what we're talking about today. So first thing is, hey, I gotta blow my nose. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You wanna? So the criteria for whether or not you're going to take somebody out to show them a house, for me, especially in this market, is they got to be buying in 90 days or less. They have to have the financial wherewithal. So it could be cash, could be financing in cash, whatever. And they have to have a life event. So a birth, a death, getting a job, leaving a job, marriage, divorce, relocation, starting school, leaving school, like something that's got a date associated with it. If you, and so that, and I kind of have like an ABC level. So that's A level motivation. B level motivation. Hey, we're looking to downsize. We're looking to upsize. We have somebody moving in with us and we need more space. Like that's B. And then C level is, if I can sell my house, I'll buy a new house if I can get the price I want. You know what also is a C level for me is our lease is coming up. Right. And because in my opinion, just the experience I've had, especially in the last couple of years, they can always go back and rent. Right. So it's not like they have any sort of legitimate motivation. And I think some people, oh, I'd love to stop renting. Oh, I can buy a house. They get pre-approved and they see what's out there for when they get pre-approved. They're like, screw that,
Yeah.
So really want a life event, like a hard date on it. Okay. The next thing is people don't care about your program. They don't care about buyer agency. They don't care about the process or anything like that. They want to see houses. And we know from extensive research and coaching, that we've gotten over the last, 20 years, that buyers want three things. They want selection, price, and ease of doing business, right? They want to go look at houses. They want to get access to as many houses as possible. And a lot of times when they're calling to really just eliminate that house so they can get closer to the one they want. I think statistically, it's like 4% of the time they actually buy the home that they call about. So you don't want to spend a lot of time. And here's the other thing for me. I don't spend a lot of time giving details about houses over the phone. A lot of agents are trained to do that, thinking they're somehow selling the person on wanting to go see it. They're not going to buy that home, right? I don't know about you, but even I've been in the business for 25 years. I still drive by houses, and occasionally I'll call the agent just to see how they handle it and ask the price. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, that house is listed for what? Yeah.
Every time one goes up in my neighborhood, which is great. It's like, what are they asking? Wow. Okay. Sounds great. I hope they get it.
Good luck with that, right? I mean, but even I'm saying, even like, what the heck? This is crazy, So if somebody like Matt or me or even just you, if we can look at a house and be like flabbergasted by how much the house is, certainly, the online consumer is going to have trouble with that too. So anyway, just take that for checking. And I would also say you really want to double down on motivation, especially in this market because of interest rates and how crazy things are. Buyers will let you show them houses until the cows come home and not buy a home.
Yep, definitely.
They will use your time for sure. All right, so let's get into it. So this is a script that I've kind of worked with Cliff Freeman on, and this lets us get everything out that we need to get out as far as questions are concerned to get the result that we need to determine if we want to go talk to somebody or not, or meet with somebody. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's just a bunch of questions, but quite honestly, it's really a way to keep the conversation going. And the other thing is these are the two most important things to ask: timing and motivation, because this is what drives whether you're going to meet with them or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So any good script starts with, who am I, where am I calling from, and why am I calling? You have to realize that people are looking at multiple sites for homes.
Yep.
Not only looking at the big ones like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Redfin, they're also looking at independent agents' websites too. So they're looking everywhere. And we know that speed to lead is important for conversion purposes. We also know that the first person that gets in front of, the first agent that gets in front of somebody pretty much gets the business probably 80% of the time. Yeah. So that's what this is all for here. So anyway, hey, this is Wally calling from. Now, look, I think we talked about this last time. I'm not big about mentioning major brands because it creates an image. I think we talked about this before too, right? So I'm not big on mentioning major brands. I would,
So hey, wait, let's touch on that in case nobody saw, any of our previous videos. So real quick, like I've been following this, and I've had different realtors work that are, coming from different companies, and they're having issue when they say, hey, I'm so-and-so from Remax or Keller Williams, and it triggers the home buyer to say, wait, I already talked to somebody from your company. No, thanks. Bye. Right. Mm-hmm. and Remax or whatever, any big brand, you know, that could trigger somebody to say, I already talked to somebody from your company. So what we found is maybe modifying that to say, you know, hey, I'm a local realtor. You were on my website. And one thing I'll say about the website is don't get into the specifics. Like if you should know where your website is and where the lead came from, but in general, they're not going to remember. And if you like all these different website providers, if you have an IDX Fed website, KV Core, Chime, all these different sites, the landing page is actually like for me selling South Jersey or sellingsj.com / blah blah blah. You know, so hey, it's my real estate website. You know, you were looking in Gloucester County, and that's what, you know, that's why I'm following up with you. You know, you were looking at homes for X dollars. So
yeah, you know, it's, and just a slight distinction, you can say, well, I'm a local real estate professional too.
Yep.
If you really want to fly under the radar, you could say, hey, you know, this is Wally, I'm calling from the Bressler team, or Matt, I'm calling from the Curcio team. Just, you don't want to say anything that's going to trigger something in their mind where they're. The other thing is the reason I have this set up this way is because we have to connect the dots for people over the phone, because they're talking to a lot of agents, because they're likely looking on a bunch of websites. They're having, you know, it's hard for them to keep things straight, and we're inserting ourselves into somebody's day, right? It takes somebody on average 10 to 30 seconds to realize that they don't know who you are. And so if you just start calling and asking questions, it can really screw things up. So, hey, this is Wally. I'm a local real estate, I'm a local real estate professional. I'm a local realtor in the area. You were on our site recently. It looks like you were looking at 5-bedroom, 3-bath homes in Cherry Hill, about $500,000. Hey, let me ask you, currently window shopping, or are you looking to buy now? Okay. So you're probably going to get window shopping more than buy now, but you know, every script that you ever use is a matter of testing. You're just testing and doing little trial closes. You're just trying to find out true motivation. And quite honestly, when somebody first talks to you and they realize you're a salesperson, it's like, you know, the defense shield goes up. So this is, you know, somewhat of an open-ended question, not completely, you know, because we're giving them some options. Actually, it's an either or question. I'm sorry. So, hey, are you window shopping or looking to buy now? A lot of people are going to say window shopping. That's okay. They're going to say, I'm not interested. You know, we're not looking any further. We were just looking, you know what? And I always talk about the difference between hearing and listening, right? You're not listening to that. You're just hearing it. Like, let it bounce off your eardrum. Okay.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, okay, great. Hey, well, let me ask you, what has you out looking for a home? Right now, look, if they say we're not interested, say, okay, I can complete that. You know, when you were interested, what had you looking for a home? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, we're not ready. Okay, great. You know, when you are ready, what's got you looking for a home? Right. You got to get that motivation out there. And, you know, I learned a long time ago, nobody goes into the shoe store if they're not looking to buy shoes. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And these people are going to buy homes at some point. And this is important. You know, it takes on average 6 to 8 contact attempts to get in touch with somebody. And then after you get in touch with them, on average, it takes another 6 to 8 contacts with them to get them out the door. Okay. And so you've got to get the conversation started. You know, you want to be there when they're ready to make the decision, but the only way you're going to be there when they make the decision, if you're here at the beginning, to build that relationship with them. I did some research on ringcentral.com, did a couple of surveys, and 2 things they determined was, number one, millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. So the 3, you know, geographic groups that are most prevalent here on the face of the planet. They 25% of each of those demographics do want to talk to somebody before they buy something, but usually it's closer to when they're ready to buy. Number one. Number two, once it gets to be a larger purchase, they said over $1,000 and a house is clearly over $1,000. It goes up to 50%. They want to talk to somebody on the phone. So people want to talk, but the thing is, you know, we call them early on. They may not be as motivated. They may not be as willing to be engaged with, but you still have to do it. And that's what this is. This is starting the conversation for you to determine where they are in the process and how much time you want to spend with them. That all make sense?
Yeah. That's
Okay,
great.
cool. Thanks. So now, what's got you out looking for a home? Let them answer the question. Now, they may say to you, what you know, we decided we were going to hold off. Okay, I can appreciate that. Then, you know, and then you can say, okay, well, when would you like to be situated in the home? Sometimes people get a little mealy mouth, you know, like, we want to wait. Okay, great. What has you waiting?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then they'll tell you, and if it's a life event, then you know that you really may not be able to move them forward. But if it's not, you know, and this, you know, what's important about that date, one of the best questions you can ask is, hey, if I could find you the perfect home with the perfect price, would you be open to moving in the next, 60 to 90 days? Also, what I've found, especially with interest rates the way they are, if we could find you the perfect home at the perfect price with a monthly payment that works for you,
No.
right? Would you be open to taking a look sooner? Because it has zero to do with the interest rate and everything to do with the amount they're paying.
Yeah.
Like I can't look at a $400,000 house and 5.95% interest rate and say that makes any sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Or I can look at a $400,000 home and the interest rate and look at a payment of $2,700 a month and go, oh, that I got.
Right.
Right. So we've got to get buyers to focus on the payment. Interest rates are so high. I can appreciate that. Hey, it sounds to me like you're looking for a good deal, right? Right. So if we could find you the perfect home with the perfect price, with a monthly payment that works for you, you'd be open to looking sooner.
That's,
Right.
I mean, that's gold. Like, that's always been part of what I bring up. That's kind
Yeah.
of my way into
Yeah.
it's been my way into getting people to tell me what they want to spend.
Sure.
Because people will tell you, oh yeah, I'm looking for 350. Well, where did that number come from? What's
My
that look like monthly?
my arse.
Right, right. I don't know. I just see stuff in the neighborhood. I never talked to a bank before, you
Mhm.
know. So, I tell everybody, unless they're paying off the entire home, it's mortgage payment. And in this market, while rents are so high, people ask me I'm the real estate guy. So people ask me everywhere, hey, what's up with the interest rates? This is crazy to buy now. No, it's not. You're buying monthly payment. Like, I
Yep.
don't care what the interest rate is. The interest rate was great. Yes, under 4 for the last few years. We're probably not going to see that much again. But in general, you're buying monthly payment. And a 2-bedroom apartment now is closer to $2,000 in my market. So um like, that's your option, or go buy a 200 and some odd $1,000 home. So what's more in your favor, and what would you rather do? Get a tax benefit or not, or just pay somebody else's mortgage? You
Mhm.
will be paying a mortgage, whether it's yours or an investor's. So at the end of the day, let's figure out what makes the most sense. And if we can put you in a property, again, right timing, payment, and it makes sense, let's look at that. And one thing I'll say to finding their motivation, something got them on the website,
Mhm.
right? And most of your websites, especially if you joined a team and these are old leads and stuff like that, you can see what they were looking at and what they continue to get emails for. They may have turned them off or may not be interested again, but I can tell you, I promise you, my own team members have turned old leads into gold because they just poked and prodded until they got past the wall of barrier and got into a conversation of, hey, look, this is what I do every day. Let me get you some properties to take a look at. And maybe there'll be a couple that fit what you're looking for. And from there, you'll get people out, you'll have better conversations. And this script is perfect to have to help the average agent get their foot in the door, and you're building rapport through this conversation. And that's the true job, right? Somehow getting this conversation out and offering assistance to somebody who was looking at real estate.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And I always compare this to, like, as a realtor, you got to put yourself in a sales seat somewhere else. And I always use the car industry, right? There's a time when I was looking for a car, even last year, right? I knew what I wanted. I called the Ford dealer. They followed up, right? If I wasn't really interested, and when I bought my other truck, like, I called around and a couple people were like, no, it's a used car. You can't find it, right? It's not going to be on your lot. Well,
Mhm.
last year I was looking for a new truck, and I called the one dealer that I know, like, and trust,
Mhm.
and they said, we'll call you when it's ready. Call me when it was ready. Okay, cool. Like, let me order it. And that's it. So
Mhm.
these people will buy, if you tell them that, the market is okay. Here, let me just show you what's coming as it comes on the market. And if you're ever want to see something, I'm down to show it to you.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And that whole Jim Rohn, right? Fortunes in the fall, penny in the sale, fortunes in the follow up. California Association of Realtors a while back said the average internet generated lead converts in 4 to 6 months. Our friends over at Zillow would say 6 to 8, 6 to 9. So, and historically, only 3 to 5% of the business is now business. Another 26% is like 90 to 180 days, and the remaining 60 whatever percent is beyond 6 months, right? So you're doing yourself a ginormous favor if you're talking to people, identifying time and motivation, and then moving them down that pipeline and having conversations with them and nurturing them along the way, because eventually what is 6-month business becomes now business if you stay in touch with them. And if you do it the right way, you'll always have somebody to call every day that you've already spoken with, which makes the job so much easier.
Yeah.
So, yep. So, okay, good stuff, by the way. So then, when would you like to be situated into a home? Again, we're trying to get them to 90 days. If they've got a true life event and they like, hey, listen, we're waiting until our kids get out of school, or we want to wait until, after summer because we're going to Europe for the summer. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's got like a really hard date with it. That's good to know. Now, if they're over 90 days and they're not working with another agent and they're open to working with you, and you've got good contact information and they have a good life event, then you can nurture the lead too and stay on top of them with drip campaigns like Matt talked about earlier, and then well-placed phone calls. Great. So this next one is a nicer way than asking, are you working with an agent? Hey, let me ask, how are you finding homes? Right? If they mention it's any of it, have you seen any homes yet? Have you signed a buyer agency agreement with them? I'm going to tell you right now that there is a 99% chance they have not signed a buyer agency agreement. And by the way, little trick for you. When you do an open house, offer like $100 Amazon gift card or a restaurant gift card, everybody that comes in, because a lot of people write down that they're working with an agent, but they're not, or they're not committed to one. And then give it to your lender and have your lender call all those people and say, hey, I'm just following up. I just want to let you know, unfortunately, you didn't win the gift card. However, I can give you a break on something regarding getting a loan. By the way, who you're getting financing through. It says here that you're working with Bob Smith from Remax. Oh, have you signed a buyer agency agreement with him? No, I haven't. Fair game, right?
Yeah.
Fair game. Not, you can't call but if you hear that, then you can call them and right. Like in real estate, if it's not written down on paper and it's not signed, it never happened. Right? You walk into a showing in the seller's home and the seller's like, hey, we're going to put in a pool before we move. And you're like, okay. And then you get there for the walkthrough and there's no pool, you're kind of SOL. Sorry, out of luck. So, just an aside, if somebody hasn't signed a buyer agency agreement, and it's not, and here's the thing, guys, that is not a violation of the code of ethics in any way, shape, or form. It's very clear, right? You sign a buyer agency agreement with somebody, they're your client. If they're not, then it's fair game.
Yeah. And it's just important for everybody to understand that. Like, we added a question but everybody should understand the consumer is getting smarter, right?
Yeah.
We all know now, right? Wally and I Wally's been my coach. Got it. I think it was 2001. No, 2010.
Yep.
Or not probably 2008 or 9 when I found you guys.
Yep.
And, some of the, conversations and how to navigate through them have changed, but overall, it's still a sales conversation. And back then people would tell us stuff like, oh yeah, we are, talking to somebody, but they weren't. But now we all know when you put your name and number down on something in email, you're going to get solicited. So now people are putting up a barrier saying, wait, I'm not filling out your, open house form. I know what happens if, right? So when they get to that question of, do you have a realtor? It will trigger. If I say yes, they'll never call me again. Yes, I have a realtor, right? So our open house entry form says, who is the realtor that you're working with if you have one? If there's no name, fair game. So also when you're doing open houses, when you're doing things, know how to say things to where you'll get the truth from somebody instead of making somebody think if I say yes, they'll leave me alone. They're in sales.
Yeah.
Just like you, right? You walk through Home Depot, there's a solar company sitting there. Hey, do you own a home? Nope, I don't. Like, nope, don't have a home.
I rent. I don't own. I rent.
There's solar on the roof already. Sorry.
I'm a renter. I don't own the house.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I think that's good. That's good intel. Next question. This is a nice way of asking, I like to start paying cash or getting financing, get a chuckle usually. And then always, 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 have you gotten a pre-approval letter yet? If they say, they are getting financing, doesn't matter if you say yes or no. Say, look, if I get you in touch with someone who can save you money on rate and terms, would you be open to chatting with them? If you don't have a relationship with a lender who's helping you offset the cost of your marketing, you need to create one of those. I would, to keep RESPA compliant and keep those knuckleheads over the CFPB off your back, just have whoever is pay their, equitable portion of whatever they're paying for directly to the company you're getting leads from. Safest way to do that. the requirement is they can't pay more than their equitable share, which means if it's you and one lender, they can only pay 50%. If it's you and two lenders or anybody else, they can only pay 33%. And they just haven't paid the company directly. And then the thing is, they have to get access to whatever leads you're getting. So you go by a portal, it doesn't matter what you use, it doesn't matter, Sync, Boomtown, Sierra, Chime, name it, they have
I
to
mean,
have.
even Zillow, like they'll 50
Well,
50
yeah,
with your
yeah,
lender.
whatever,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so they have to have direct access to it. So anyway, just play by the rules and you'll be fine. But the whole point is you want somebody to help offset the cost so that you can generate more leads. And then you want to make sure that, and this is my personal opinion, every buyer you talk to that is willing to work with you needs to talk to your lender, right? Whatever you have to, it's your lender's job. It's their job to convert them, but you have to basically you've got to pitch the softball to them. If they're going to hit it or not, that's up to them. So, hey, listen, I know you're speaking with somebody else, but if they could save you money on rate and terms, would you be willing to talk with them? Most people will say yes, right? And then it's your lender's job to convert that. Best thing to do is I'm going to set up a 3-way text so we're connected with each other. Do not say, hey, I'm going to give you my lender's number, call my lender, because they're not going to call. Never.
nope.
Right? They'll never call. So please say, I'll have my lender call you, or let's put a 3-way text together. That way, they're just about forced to talk to that person.
Yeah. So what I've done in the smartphone is, I've gone ahead and both the lenders that I work with have an app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we get off the phone with somebody, hey, listen, since you don't have your lending set up, I'm going to text you with my lender. And, there'll be a link. You can fill it out. If you're uncomfortable, just call the lender right away. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'll say, hey, Bob, here's my lender. And he's with, whatever blank
Mm-hmm.
lending company. Here's the link that I talked about to apply to get your pre-qualification so we can get you out to that house you wanted information on. Let me know how you make out. The lender replies, hey, great to meet you. I'll fill out that information and I'll get right back to you as soon as I have your credit. Right. Mm-hmm. So you remove that barrier. And by the way, guys, you have to work with experts, right? Mm-hmm. Make sure I know right now. So this actually happened yesterday, right? I got a call and I got to the question of, are you paying cash? Right. And I still use it. It works like gold. I got to see that house. It's around the corner. I need to buy a home, blah, blah, blah. Okay. No problem. Hey, by the way, I can show it. I do have somebody available if I'm not on Thursday. Are you paying cash for this? Well, no. Okay. Did you talk to a bank yet? No. Okay. Here's the deal. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to have somebody call you. I sent an email and I have a lender with his own team and they started right away. And I said, listen, they're going to tell you what you qualified for. And, he didn't qualify. Mm-hmm. But had I just ran out and showed him because I might've been nervous, a newer agent that, that house was 30 minutes from my office, 30, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. I would have wasted an hour plus the time in the home to come back to my office and find out, okay, now they can't buy a home.
Yeah. And always to your point, if they push back, just be like, hey, you know what? The seller and real estate agent basically don't want anybody who's not pre-approved or paying cash and can prove it in the home. And that's not a lie.
Yeah.
Right. Agents and sellers don't want people who are not pre-approved or able to afford the home in the home. So I think you're perfectly in the right to say, listen, and by the way, it's a great thing about being a real estate agent. You can blame stuff on anybody but yourself.
Me, right? Your broker manager, your team leader.
This is a policy, man. Our broker, he's a hard ass, and we got to charge this fee, or what I'm saying. But and then just hey, listen, you know what? The other agent, the seller, they don't let people in this home unless they're pre-approved or have cash. So I wish I could do that. Now look, they can call another agent will want to work with them, but that's fine. Mm-hmm. You want that person to go tie up another agent's time, right? So that keeps them from getting real business. So just make sure you do that. Good stuff. That's a great point. Next, do you lease or do you own? If they lease, when's your lease up? Okay. We're still in a market where you could get some assistance from sellers on maybe paying for closing costs to free up money to get them out of their lease early. So that's an option if it's close. Yep. If they're selling, do you own a home? Do you need to sell it to buy your next home? If so, do you have someone to help you with that? I'm interested in your opinion on this. This is my opinion. They called about buying a home first, which a lot of sellers do because they're afraid of being homeless. Mm-hmm. Because they called and are going this direction, I stay in the buyer lane. I don't get into the seller lane. and I meet with them and I sign them into a buyer agency agreement. And then I say, okay, listen, here's the thing. You can go look at homes first. And now because of programs like Homeward and, what do they call it? There's so many programs.
In my market, there's one that's called Cash Two Keys.
Yeah,
So,
Cash the Keys. Yeah, this I forget, this one begins with a B, but anyway, the whole point is you can do that now.
Mhm.
So there's no rush to go and get the listing right away. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is trying to convince somebody that to sell their home over the phone is really hard.
yeah.
Because you have very little rapport, you've got no credibility, you have no authority, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So I just stay in the buyer lane, get them signed up to a buyer agency agreement and say, listen, I appreciate that you want to go buy first. We're in a situation right now where it's probably not advantageous to you, because what happens is you're going to go find a home. And if the seller is willing to work with you because you have a contingency, do you think they're going to give you a great price on the home? Probably
Right.
not. Right. So you're likely going to overpay on the home you're going to buy. And then now we've got to sell your home. And because you're super motivated to sell your home to buy the next home, do you think you're going to get top dollar on your home? No. So you're basically, for lack of a better terminology, you're screwing yourself out of equity in your home and you're overpaying on the other home. If I can make a suggestion, let's go ahead and get your home listed. Let's sell it. Anybody who, because there's a shortage of inventory, people will wait for you to find another home. We can maximize the value of your home and then we can go buy with confidence. Or I've got this program and you can explain how Homeward work, or one of the other programs do. Okay, so
Have everything in your toolkit. And guys, I'll give you a tip on the financing question for first-time buyers. So you have to know that you have to know all the mortgages. And when I say all of them, I mean the discounted cheap ones and the grants, because you will talk to a large amount of first-time buyers that may not know about there's a grant program. And yes, in the last 2 years, it's been very hard to get people approved. But over the winter, I can't tell you how many realtors I know that posted, got a grant approved, got a, down payment assistance, great community development loan, boom, but, and they're posting and bragging because finally they were able to do it. Got a seller to pay all my closing costs. It's happening in this market. So number one, understand it. Mm-hmm. But I have pulled more clients from other real estate, agents, and they were not exclusively working, but talking to other agents. And when I have the conversation, when you, the new agent, talks to somebody, or not experienced agent talks to somebody, and then they call me about one, whatever thing I had up for sale, and I say, hey, did anybody mention that there's a program for people like you? It sounds like you just got your job, you're under X dollars a year. There's a program where you might not have mortgage insurance and it only requires 3% down. Did anybody tell you about that? No. Okay, well, that might be more than $50,000 I just put in your pocket. Are you willing to talk a little bit more about this? Yeah. Who are they going to talk to? The person that saved them 50 grand, or somebody who just said, no, FHA is the only way to go.
By the way, if I could, would you is like your best friend in real estate and any sale, really, If I could help you maximize your equity and not be homeless, find a home and then sell your home afterwards, would that work okay for you? Would you be interested in that? By the way, I was looking while you were talking a little bit. It's Knock, Easy Knock, and Orchard are also some other options.
Okay.
So Homeward, Catch the Keys in your market, Knock, Easy Knock, Orchard. Put them all, because they're all a little bit different. Put them all in your quiver of arrows. And listen, you don't have to understand them at a deep level. You just got to say, listen, this company will come in and they'll basically give you access to a tremendous amount of your equity. And then you can use that equity to go buy another home as a cash buyer because your home is sold. And then you'll move out and then they'll go ahead and sell your home. And quite honestly, they'll even rent your home back to you until you find a home. And it's only going to cost you somewhere between a point and a half of your equity, which is
yeah.
So I wouldn't say any more than that. Okay, cool. So then, and then you find out everything lines up 90 days or less, has financial wherewithal, life event. Great, let's do this. Let's set up a time to get together and I can set you up on a customized search of homes. And then from there, we can go out and look at some homes. This is what they want to do. This is why they call, right? What's better for you, weekdays or weekends? Find the time and then, okay, which one works for you? Great. Look, I'm going to send you a calendar invite right now. If you would, please accept it when you receive it. I would wait for them, if they can do it, accept it right there so they can see it. Also, this is a big one here because you set an appointment with somebody and it's on a Friday, they can't meet till Monday, then they're out in the week on Friday and Saturday, they go to an open house. Next thing you know, they own a home or they're buying a home, right? So if you should see anything between now and the time we get together, let me know. I've got access to all listings by all real estate agents as well as FSBOs in new construction. Okay. Last thing, if something changes, please let me know so we can find a new time to get together. I personally like to meet with people before I go and show them houses. If you can't do it because you're in real, it's cloud-based, you probably don't have or any
Or
other.
just, yeah, it's not even cloud-based companies anymore. It's just, I make it convenient to them,
Yeah,
right? I tell
Starbucks.
my agents like, hey, look, we have an office, right? But if it's more than like 10 minutes from somebody, offer a Starbucks, a Dunkin' Donuts, some store to, cafe to meet, because you do, number one, safety, right? Ladies out showing houses, vacant properties to
Yeah.
random people. But number two, if they're serious enough to meet with you and discuss their goals, then they're gonna, probably commit to working with you and only you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that as well. Sit down, meet with somebody, offer, if your office is close enough, or an office. And by the way, guys, your office is not just your real estate office, it's your title company's office, it's your mortgage company's office. And most of them have multiple locations. So leverage everybody. You have a team, even though you're an individual in real estate. And that's your entire, sales company. But I want to touch on one thing here. I want to share my screen.
Let me stop sharing. So, by the way, the other thing is, there are tons of incubator spaces or office sharing spaces where you can get a monthly rental and have access to a conference room anytime you want, mostly anytime you want, which is not a lot of money either,
Yep. All right. So this is what I use. So I take that same script that Wally has. I have it somewhere else. These are the general questions, guys. So what you can do is you can condense any script you're comfortable with. But you have to ask those questions that were in there. And what I like to do, I use this software called OneNote, because as you can see here, these are all previous buyers. And, I can look at them, I can open it up months later, years later, whatever, if they never bought with me, and figure out what happened. But another thing that I want you to get to is the conversation of, what are you looking for? And while it changes a little bit, in general, you want to turn that website lead into, you're incubating them, and you ask permission. Is it okay for me to send you new listings daily? Yes or no? What cities, towns, counties are you interested in? Okay. And if you, like, I'm training newer agents right now. So we have, this is a list of our, yeah, well, you can see it on my, look at me on the
I
screen.
was going to say, like,
Yeah, this is just a list. Like, if you don't know the towns in your county, read them to the buyer, right? If you're new enough to where you're like, I don't even know some of these townships, just read it. Just say, hey, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to read. So I grab our little sheet here and I say, hey, Gloucester County, let me read the town. You say yes or no. If they're local to the market, they're going to be like, never in that town. Yes, in that town. No way. That school's horrible. And people say it about where my kids go to school. Like, no way in your town. Okay. Well, they don't know it's my town, but I'm like, my kids are okay. They went there.
Hey, listen, I'm a public school student. I did okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I like to get through the buyer interview, including what they're looking for: single, townhome, minimum bedrooms, and dumb it down for everybody and help them understand, like, hey, look, if you would do, Wally, I know you said you're doing a 3-bedroom, but what about a 2-bedroom and maybe it has a basement? Would that work for you? Yeah. Okay. The reason I don't want to limit it to 3 bedrooms is because we could find a bunch of 2 bedrooms, and, you may call me one day and say, well, you didn't show me that 2-bedroom, and be mad at me. And I'd say, well, you told me you had to have 3. I know it had a basement, but we couldn't set that up in the computer.
Right. And if they object to that, what I used to say to people is, hey, listen, let me do this. You ask them the towns they want to work in, something like, and not only do I want to live in this town, but I want to live in this neighborhood, and I only want to be on streets that start with J. Right. Yeah. So obviously there's some people that have some religious preferences. I get that. But listen, may I make a suggestion? Sure. Let me just send you everything that's close to your criteria, and then you sort it into pile A, B, and C. Let's go see the A's. We'll put the B's on back up, and you can tear the C's up and put them in your cat box or in the bottom of your birdcage. I don't care. Yeah. The whole point is because, split entries, right? Up north, split entries are big. I don't want a split entry.
Yeah.
Right. You go and you see this amazing, beautiful split entry, or split level. So ask them for permission to send them things that are just in the outskirts of where they're looking, as well as their price range, as long as it's under the top amount, and to their criteria, like Matt said. So only if they balk at it, but they don't know what they don't know. And
Yeah.
I've had people walk into houses they never thought they would buy and fall in love with it. So I think that's important.
Yeah. And I say to exactly what you're saying, I tell them, hey, look, I'd rather you see it and say no than not see it at all. And then call me and say, why didn't we see this one? So
Gotcha.
minimum bedrooms. And when they say garage, does it need a garage? And I mean, absolutely need a garage. You have to have it, right? Yes. Okay, cool. I'll mark that off. Basement, yes or no? Any other must haves? Well, I want a fence yard. Well, if it was affordable and you could put your own fence up, or we could get the seller to do that, would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. Then I'm not going to mark fence, just like we discussed. And then short sales and foreclosures, another way to frame that question to make you seem like, you know a little bit more about what you're doing. Are you willing to save up to 20% on a home? If I could help you do that, yes. Okay, great. Awesome.
Right.
Are you willing to do work on a home? You'll get the honest answer. I can't even swing a hammer. Don't even bother. Like, okay, no problem. I get it. Right. And then from this conversation, we go right to a giant list in the MLS if the MLS has it, and then set them up on a daily follow-up. So I initially would go through that questionnaire and say, all right, here's everything. Take a look. There's 60 homes for you to look through. Let me know which ones you like. And from there, I want you to, I'm going to update you every day. Stop clicking, and please stop clicking buttons on Zillow and realtor.com, because if you keep doing that, you're just going to have more realtors call you.
And in addition to that, and this is, I believe, is a statistical fact, roughly 30% of the homes that get listed either never make it to a big page like Zillow, Truly, or whatever, or by the time they get there, they're sold.
Yeah.
And so you're missing out on opportunities. And that's actually one of the great questions. Actually, I learned this from Cliff. I'm not sure if you know this, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, but about 30% of the homes that get listed either never make it to the big big pages like Zillow or Truly or Redfin or whatever. And either that or they're sold by the time they get there. Would you like to get access to those 30%? Also, how about off-market properties? Would you like to get access to some off-market properties? Yeah, right. They feel like they're getting like the secret stash, right? Off-market properties. Well, expireds that didn't relist.
Yep.
Right. You could argue FSBOs are off-market because most agents aren't going to show a FSBO to somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you can do that. Sign them to a buyer agency agreement. You're protected. And then obviously you can go pat on some doors, right? Circle prospecting, for rent by owners, absentee owners. There's lots of homes that you can make available to somebody that another agent may not do. And so if you're having an inventory issue, do that. In fact, I would just go Zillow, FSBOs, and your county, and just look it up and see how wide you'll go. There's tons of FSBOs out there, and the majority of them are willing to offer at least a 3% commission. So I don't think you're missing out on anything.
Yep.
Good stuff today, sir.
Yes, it is. Well, everybody follow us, find us, reach out to our calendars. We're everywhere. So we'll be in touch with more good content. Wally, thanks again, man.
You got it, brother. Good to see you.
You too. Take care.